does so, because it's the same issue. From my perspective, this is what the intelligence community does in the world. This is why they do it. This is what they would do to him if they could.
It's scary times, and we don't know how it's going to end, but hopefully it will end eventually.
I read the news today, oh boy.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
As the nation was still digesting the president's statements from his interview with NBC's Lester Holt over breakfast Friday morning, Trump showed signs that his mental state is unraveling. At the New York Times, Peter Baker eloquently stated it to begin the day, quote, President Trump on Friday warned James B. Comey, the former FBI director he fired this week, against leaking anything negative about the president and warned the news media that he may cancel all future White House briefings. In a series of early morning Twitter posts, Mr. Trump even seemed to suggest that there may be secret tapes of his conversations with Mr. Comey that could be used to counter the former FBI director if necessary. It was not immediately clear whether he meant that literally or simply hoped to intimidate Mr. Comey into silence. For 2 days, Trump spokespeople claimed that the memo from Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was the impetus for the firing.
You said last week the president had full confidence in his FBI director. What changed?
The recommendation that came today and the rationale behind it.
So the president made the decision today?
Yes.
Look, I think when you receive a report that is so clear and a recommendation by someone like the Deputy Attorney General, you have no choice but to act.
President Trump made the right decision at the right time. To accept the recommendation of the Deputy Attorney General and the Attorney General to ask for the termination, to support the termination of the director of the FBI because of the actions that the Deputy Attorney General outlined to the President that were endorsed and agreed with by the Attorney General. The President made the right decision at the right time.
This is the action that a president takes when he is told by the Deputy Attorney General, who's only been on the job for 14 days, so he took a new assessment, a new look at everything.
So let's go back to that NBC interview. Trump proved them all liars with one quick answer.
Regardless of recommendation, I was going to fire Comey, knowing there was no good time to do it. And in fact, when I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story. It's an excuse by the Democrats for having lost an election.
So Dump admits that he was troubled by the made-up Russia thing, and that was why he fired him. Once again, throwing the people that regularly lie for him under the bus.
People in the Justice Department made a very strong recommendation. The president followed it. This absolutely has nothing to do with any investigation into Russia.
It has nothing to do with Russia. It has everything to do with whether the current FBI director has the president's confidence.
Intelligence officials have said there's investigation into potential ties between campaign officials and Russian officials.
That's not what this was about. The president took strong and decisive leadership here to put the safety and security of the American people first.
What about the president's dissatisfaction with the Russia probe? Did that play into this, sir? And
let me be very clear that the president's decision to accept the recommendation of the Deputy Attorney General and the Attorney General to remove Director Comey as the head of the FBI was based solely and exclusively on his commitment to the best interest of the American people.
The New York Times on Thursday also reported that during that dinner, Trump demanded loyalty from the FBI director, with Michael Schmidt writing, as they ate, the president and Mr. Comey made small talk about the election and the crowd sizes at Mr. Trump's rallies. The president then turned the conversation to whether Mr. Comey would pledge his loyalty to him.
I can really shake them down. Do you love me?
Schmidt appeared on MSNBC Friday morning.
Comey had been appointed by Obama back in 2013, so it's 7 days into his presidency, January 27th. Comey gets summoned to the White House. Comey doesn't want to go, but he doesn't think he can turn the meeting down. And right off the bat, Trump goes after the issue of loyalty, sort of signaling to Comey that this was the reason why he wanted to talk to him. And Comey sidestepped it and said, look, I'll give you my honesty, but, he doesn't give that loyalty approach. But Trump kept on coming back to it, and they eventually get to the point where Trump says, well, honest loyalty. Now, I don't specifically know whether it's true that the issue of the Russia investigation came up at that, but it was clear to Comey what Trump was trying to get from him. And Comey didn't want to do it, and he was afraid of doing it, and his relationship from there deteriorated. And what Comey's associates say is when they look back at this, they say, well, this is pretty crystal clear why this relationship never worked out and why Comey was fired.
Now, the reporting must have rubbed Trump the wrong way, as he let loose a particularly erratic Twitter stream that included, as a very active president with lots of things happening, it is not possible for my surrogates to stand at podium with perfect accuracy. Maybe the best thing to do would be to cancel all future, quote, press briefings and hand out written responses for the sake of accuracy, followed by 3 question marks. And the kicker, James Comey better hope that there are no, quote, tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. Presidential historian Michael Beschloss tweeted in response, presidents are supposed to have stopped routinely taping visitors without their knowledge when Nixon's taping system was revealed in 1973. If you appreciate our What's News segments, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. What's News and The Nicole Sandler Show are 100% listener funded, and we need your help. Find out more at NicoleSandler.com/donate.
Mary, how does the man? The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Hey, you bastards.
You know, girls, it's great to live in a democracy today, where freedom is everywhere. But girls, we often take this freedom for granted. Freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and freedom of action. But you know, gals, just because a bunch of men signed that Declaration of Independence in 1776 doesn't mean that freedom was for men alone.
Oh, no?
Oh, no, you take Tom Jefferson.
Be with you right
Ben
in a minute.
Franklin. John Hancock. There's a hell of a guy for you right there.
How may I direct your call?
All these men had wives.
They did.
They probably had a few broads on the side, too.
The Upper East Side.
These women wanted freedom just as much as their men did.
Yes.
But, gals, I wonder, do we? I think it's time that we women thought about it a bit. Hell, I think it's time we did something about it.
Hell.
So come on, fellow females of the 20th century.
21st.
Be glad that you're an American.
I am.
Proclaim your freedom.
Freedom.
Stand at attention.
Oh.
Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance.
And bounce your boobies. Get into the swing. Bounce your boobies. The swing is everything. Makes no difference if they're big or small.
It does too.
As long as you give him your all.
Oh.
Bounce your boobies. Come on, honey. Bounce them up and down. Bounce your boobies. Come on, bounce your boobies, honey. Come on. Loosen the bra that binds you.
Oh.
Take it off if you feel like it.
Look out below.
Bounce your boobies. There we go. Doesn't that feel good?
No.
Bounce your boobies. You know, girls.
What?
Men aren't the only people in the world today who have something to give.
Are you sure?
But it sure looks like it sometimes.
It do.
Just look around you.
Okay.
Men stick out all over the place.
Really?
Big fat cigars.
Yes.
Big fat stomachs.
Hello.
And just where they should stick out.
Hey, that's a Harley.
Where is it?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, girls, we know what we've got and we know what they're worth.
Priceless, Johan.
So come on, gals. Let's get into the swing of things. Give your boobies some freedom. All together now. Oh, bounce your boobies. Let them rock and roll. Nut your knockers. Keep them hot and so.
Oh.
Just admit it, gals. It sure feels great to feel them swinging. Ooh, titillate.
Ew.
Bounce your boobies. Come on, bounce them up and down. Bounce your boobies. There, look at that gal. She's going there. Bounce your boobies. Oh, doesn't that feel good? Bounce.
Ow.
Bounce.
Ow.
Bounce.
Ow.
Bounce.
Ow.
Bounce. Your boobies now.
J weekend bounce. Had my mammogram today. I get to live. I don't have cancer. I don't have cancer. I don't have cancer. But I'm a pretty good ballet dancer. The women know what I'm talking about. The women know. They know. When you go for the mammogram, oh my God. And mine are like super, super, super invasive now. They're so invasive. Oh, do they get up in there? Okay, just 4 more shots. Just 9 more. Just 10 more. 6, 7, 5, 4, 3. Okay, and now the close-ups. What? Norma Desmond. My boobs have become Norma Desmond. They have lived that long that they're ready for their close-up. And then, of course, you're put in a room for like the worst hour of your life. If you're lucky, if you have a radiologist like I have, my little Lorna. God, I love this woman. She has saved my life more than once. And, today was no different. So she puts you in a room, but she does it different. This is not one of these in and out clinic-y things. Okay. This is like, she cares so much about women and she understands the screening can be a little traumatic. So she reads your reports right there and then, so you don't have to go home. And a week later, they call you and go, you got cancer. Thank you. Make an appointment. So, so she put me in a room. She dimmed the light. She said, oh, you look so stressed. My God. And she knows what I do. She's a fan. I'm a fan of yours too, Lorna. And so anyway, we were reminiscing. She says, I'm going to leave the lights dim for you. I'll go read these. I'll be right back. I'm sure it's going to be good news today. I just know it. I feel it. And she dims the lights. There were flowers in the room. Oh, it's just, and I started tweeting my brains out. So if you saw me go on a Twitter rant, for about an hour there, I was waiting for the results of my mammogram is what I was doing. And of course, why pass up a moment to work? Why take advantage of the spa-like atmosphere created by my radiologist? Why? Why would I do that? That's why she came in and she goes, oh, really? You've got to slow it down. Now, I remember when I got the bad news from her. She came in, the look on her face, I told you everything. She put her little hand on my leg. Remember, Howard was there. She put my little hand on my leg. I went, oh, I'm dead. She touched my leg. I'm in so much trouble. And, of course, that was a bad day. But this is the 1.5 year mark. And I don't have cancer. I don't have cancer. I don't have cancer. But I do have to slow down. Doctor's orders. So we're contemplating what to do. We're contemplating. We were just beginning to open up a conversation as the show began about whether or not we should take July 4th and turn it into a very long weekend and go check on our house in Costa Rica and smell the democracy down there because it reeks up here. Oh, my God. Seriously, dude. What is wrong with you? So we left off yesterday with the little snippets of the Lester Holt interview that everybody was, given. Thank you, NBC. Thank you, Lester Holt, for giving approval to anybody that wanted to use it, fair use. And so that we could play it for you and everybody. CNN played it more than NBC did. That's a little, boy, there's some attitudes over at the NBC. I'm telling you, I know that place. There's some stuff going on. They didn't want the Lester Holt to take the time away from their really sick, but CNN, they played it wall to wall, man. They just sat back, relaxed, and enjoyed the show because they knew what I knew. I played it at the top of the show yesterday, remember? And we broke our own format because there was such an ethical question for me that I had reached out to an ethics lawyer, a good one, the one that was the ethics advisor. I know, make your jokes, I made them, to the Bush administration. Hard to believe. Even he found it hard to believe. But what a charmer. What a charmer Richard Painter is. Oh, he was so great. And, we called him, I don't know, 5 minutes before the show started and asked him, could he be on in 5 minutes? And he said, all right, Randy, all right. And he came on and we played him this clip. We played him the one that you've seen a million times, I'm sure.
He's a showboat. He's a grandstander. The FBI has been in turmoil. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that.
No one knows that.
You take a look at the FBI a year ago.
Yeah.
It was in virtual turmoil less than a year ago. It hasn't recovered from that.
Monday. Wait. Okay, so this is the fun part. This is just the fun part, okay? He says things in this affirmative way to make you believe them the way that he believes them because he's detached from the real world. See, a year ago when the FBI was, reopening up because they had gotten somehow from the NYPD and the New York FBI Bureau of the FBI had passed along this unlooked at computer, except to say they looked at it enough to know that there were some emails on there that had to do with the Hillary Clinton email story, the closed investigation, and they passed it on to Comey. Okay, so at that point there, where he's saying everybody knew they were in turmoil, everybody knew. He was out there saying he loved law enforcement, that the FBI was his favorite of all the law enforcements. Even the Clark dude in Wisconsin. He loved the FBI more than him. Crazy Clark man up in Wisconsin. Sheriff. Loved the FBI more than Joe Arpaio. The FBI was his absolute favorite law enforcement. Favorite because Comey had nads, he had cookies, he had the goods, he had the temerity, he had the bravery, he had the courage, it was hard, restored his reputation. It was all fixed according to him. It was all done. It was good. Because Rudy Giuliani, of course, set James Comey up. There is no question. Bitch set him up. No question. All right, but I love the way he says this to us, okay? We will study him for years to come, He will be the big, political science 101 will be Marbury versus Madison, and then they'll downshift right into what you don't want to have happen to the executive branch, because Marbury versus Madison has to do with the judiciary. And then we'll move right into the executive branch, and we will study Donald Trump from that point on in your class. And they will say things like, he learned at the knee of... the Carnegie, the Carnegie salesman, the Dale Carnegie schools, and there was another guy, Peel. He was a minister, like I think he was a Methodist. Put out all these positive thinking things. Yes, Norman Vincent Peale. Fred Trump was a student of Norman Vincent Peale, and of course, young Donald was taken to Norman Vincent Peale's sermons as a young boy, and it was all power positive. So what he does is he goes, everybody knows it. This is what he lays out a false, completely alternative fact. And then he says, and everybody knows it, which makes you feel like the odd man out if you know that it's not true. See, this is what he does. It's a technique. It's a liar's technique, but more than that. It's a salesman. Norman Vincent Peale believed in the power of positive thinking so that vacuum cleaner salesmen would do better. Because Norman Vincent Peale was really about the middle class. And so he was, preaching this, hey, you could sell more vacuum. It was the Willie Loman school of thought is what it was. You can sell anything. Okay, so this is what he does. He says, and everybody knows it. Nobody thought the FBI was melting down. Nobody, except for Rudy Giuliani, because Rudy Giuliani was talking to James Kallstrom and his boys, because James Kallstrom was a former FBI director. And now he's he's parlayed his great legal experience at the FBI, his really great tenure at the FBI, into a pundit for Fox News position. No, not a big law firm, not a consulting firm, not, it didn't set up his own legal house, not even a lobby shop. No, he's a Fox News pundit is what he is. So anyway, this is the first technique, and that part just, I can't tell you how textbook this is from the power of positive thinking that swept, especially New York in the 1960s.
Take a look at the FBI a year ago. It was in virtual turmoil less than a year ago. It hasn't recovered from that.
Monday, you met with the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein.
Right.
Did you ask for a recommendation?
What I did is I was going to fire Comey. My decision. It was not...
You had made the decision before they came in the room.
I was going to fire Comey.
All right, now let's dissect this a little bit. See, this is fun now. Now that you know what really happened, it's just so fun to review him because he's such a liar. Okay, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, went to Don McGahn, the White House counsel's office, and told Don McGahn, I will quit this damn job if you don't correct the record. This is everything that Spicer, everything that Sarah girl with her sweater, her little cardigan there, and her pearls, Everything that came out of her mouth, everything that came out of Spicer's mouth, everything that came out of Donald Trump's mouth, everything that came out of Pence's mouth, everything that came out of everyone at the White House's mouth was a damn lie. And he said, I cannot work in an environment where facts are not accurately reported. You need to correct the record. That's why Donald Trump went on Lester Holt. Problem is, he's an improv liar. See, this is what I said to Richard Painter yesterday. I said, you know the old expression where it's easier to tell the truth. I mean, I actually had this quoted from I did a little take on it that was my own. I can hardly even remember it, but it was on a Starbucks cup. I don't know if anybody remembers my Starbucks cup. But what Starbucks did, it was one of their campaigns, campaigns to make it, like a really friendly neighborhood place. And so they asked people of note, would they give a quote that they could put on the Starbucks cup? And I think Madeleine Albright had the most controversial one, something about a woman. She had something to do with women. Somebody in the audience will remember what she said. This is like a fuzzy memory, but I have my cup somewhere. I don't know where. It's probably in my garage in a box with all my crap. Because I'm not one to, like my dad's awards. That means something to me. Mine are in a box in the garage somewhere. But the cup said something like, it takes a second to tell the truth and a lifetime to lie. And so that's based on the old expression that, you don't want to tell a lie because you have to be really smart to tell a lie because, you have to remember all the lies you told because one lie leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. So that was my take on that. And at Starbucks liked it. So anyway, so I asked Painter yesterday, I said, the old expression where they say, you don't want to tell a lie because, one lie leads to another and you have to be like really, I said, they don't even make an attempt. It's like hard work to lie. They don't even make the attempt to do the work to tell the lie well. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, Rod Rosenstein melted down. He's only on the job 2 weeks. And he threatened to leave already. Now, how would that look if the White House... I mean, they can't keep anybody good, right? You've had so many people fired. You had so many people leave. So anyway, Rod is the person that forced Donald Trump to go to Lester Holt. But Trump is an improv liar. He doesn't really care if he gets caught. It's like people are trying to figure out. Charles M. Blow wrote a beautiful piece, and he was trying to figure out why Trump is so disconnected from human nature. And I suggested in a tweet that perhaps he isn't one. That might be why he's so disconnected. Anyway, here goes.
There's no good time to do it, by the way.
Because in your letter you said I accepted their recommendation,
well,
so you had already made the decision.
I was going to fire regardless of recommendation.
So there was really
he made a recommendation. He's highly respected, very good guy, very smart guy. The Democrats like him, the Republicans like him. He made a recommendation, but regardless of recommendation, I was going to fire Comey.
Let me ask you about your termination letter to Mr. Comey. You write, I greatly appreciate you informing me on 3 separate occasions that I am not under investigation. Why did you put that in there?
Because he told me that. I mean, he told me that.
Okay, so he told me that. That's why I asked Richard Painter to come on the show, because I asked him, is that not, a conflict of interest? Because, Richard Painter is an ethics lawyer and he's very good at conflicts. And so I said, if you came to the White House and you wanted to serve in the Randi administration, and I'm telling you, you were the FBI director, and I say to you, okay, Richard, so you want to keep your job as FBI director, but I need to know, am I under investigation? If you told me yes or no, wouldn't that affect your position going forward? You can't ask that question. Is it a conflict? Everybody was speechless about the fact that he did do that, but it's worse than that, because also no one believed a law enforcement officer would answer that question. Well, then by last night, Comey's close associates talk to the newspaper and tell the newspaper the true story of what happened at the dinner. None of it comports with Twitler's version. I'm shocked, I tell you. Shocked!
Clear for takeoff.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Buy a stinking podcast. Yep, you heard me. I said buy a stinking podcast already. Thanks for listening to The Randi Rhodes Show. We're glad you're here with us live. But hey, how about this? When we're not live, did you know you can stream the show on demand anytime and anywhere you want? Just go to RandiRhodes.com, click on podcasts, and listen commercial-free whenever you want. And guess what? We're never closed. Open all day, every day. Buy a stinking podcast. That's RandiRhodes.com.
Well, it's clear that something's very, very wrong with the nation's economy. It's experiencing anemic growth. Our middle class is shrinking. Retirees are facing nationwide pension crises, with many pensions being underfunded and headed toward insolvency. The stock market's super volatile, and many experts say it's way overpriced. The Trump administration is MIA with their amazing economic plan for America. So how are you feeling about your economic security? Call my friends at ITM Trading. Just speak with one of their precious metals experts about gold and find out why now is the perfect time for gold. Learn why gold survives every government, every currency, every economic crisis. Call ITM Trading today at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and they'll send you a free gold buyer's guide. They've helped tens of thousands of people acquire physical gold and silver, and they can help you too. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 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 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2008. That was the day Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents besieged the agri-processors meatpacking plant in Postville, Iowa. At the time, it was the largest immigration raid in U.S. history. Nearly 400 workers, mostly from Guatemala and Mexico, were rounded up, detained, and arrested on charges of identity fraud and entering the United States illegally. The raid was part of a nationwide campaign targeting suspected undocumented workers. The raid essentially killed two birds with one stone. It quashed the union organizing campaign the United Food and Commercial Workers Union had been waging for over 2 years. It also dashed the hopes of the Department of Labor investigators looking into allegations of substantial abuses at the plant. UFCW leaders noted the raid served to eliminate hundreds of witnesses to labor violations at the plant. The raid did uncover at least 29 cases of child labor violations, with children as young as 13 years old working on the killing floor. But Minneapolis UFCW organizers maintained that company agents routinely followed UFCW reps on home visits and threatened workers they spoke with. They noted that wages are extraordinarily low, basic worker safety and protection is miserable. It's intensified by the fact that this employer was able to come up with a more vulnerable workforce and abuse it over the long haul. These workers were quickly convicted, jailed, and then deported. They were soon replaced by a fresh wave of Somali refugees who complained of the same low wages and poor working conditions. The company was eventually fined for countless violations and its CEO arrested. It emerged from bankruptcy under new ownership and has yet to be organized. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force.
I told you weren't under investigation with regard to the Russia investigation?
I've heard that from others. I think
was it on a phone call? Did you meet face to face?
I had a dinner with him. He wanted to have dinner because he wanted to stay on. We had a very nice dinner at the White House very early on. A dinner was arranged. I think he asked for the dinner. And he wanted to stay on as the FBI head.
No.
And I said, I'll consider. We'll see what happens. But we had a very nice dinner. And at that time, he told me, you are not under investigation, which I knew anyway.
That was one meeting. What was the
First
of
all, when you're under investigation, you're giving all sorts of documents and everything. I knew I wasn't under. And
okay, who in this audience has ever been under investigation for anything? Who got documents telling them that they were under investigation? Whoever got documents? Okay, so that was a lie that the entire media just passed over because he said Comey asked for a dinner. Comey wanted to come to the White House. Well, the New York Times says no. And you know what's really interesting also is another dot that has failed to be connected. The New York Times says only 7 days after Donald J. Trump was sworn in as president, James B. Comey has told associates the FBI director was summoned to the White House for a one-on-one dinner with the new commander-in-chief. The conversation that night in January, Mr. Comey now believes, was a harbinger of his downfall this week as head of the FBI, according to two people who have heard his account of the dinner. As they ate, the president and Mr. Comey made small talk about the election and his crowd sizes and other sizes of other things, because he's a freaking size queen, and the size of his rallies. And the president then turned the conversation to whether Mr. Comey would pledge his loyalty to him. What, an oath? O muerta? What is this, Godfather material over here? Yeah, sure. The White House. Oh, Mr. Comey declined. Of course he did. He's my Boy Scout. He's my man. By the way, hi, Angus King. Angus King must listen because every, cute little quip that I make comes out of Angus King's mouth just, a few hours later. It's pretty amazing. But I'm kind of grateful. I just wish you would give me a little shout out once in a while. But anyway, Mr. Comey declined to make that pledge. Instead, Mr. Comey has recounted to others. He told Mr. Trump that he would always be honest with him, but that he was not reliable in the conventional political sense. Now, the White House says this is not correct. And Trump said, this is how it happened.
And I heard it was stated at the committee, at some committee level, that I wasn't. Number one.
So that didn't come directly
then
from
during
him.
a phone call, he said it, and then during another phone call, he said it. So he said it once at dinner, and then he said it twice during phone calls.
Did you call him?
In one case, I called him. In one case, he called me.
And did you ask, am I under investigation?
I actually asked him, yes. I said, if it's possible, would you let me know, am I under investigation? He said, you are not under investigation.
You asked him if it was possible 3 different times. You know why? Because you're guilty. That's why you would ask. First of all, I doubt very much that that's the way he asked the question. I think it was much more the way that Comey, who has, shown to be under oath, a straight shooter. Comey, obviously is, somebody who plays it right. Takes an oath to uphold the law, not an oath to the president. The only one that ever thought she took an oath to the president was one of Bush's little underlings, Agent Starling, we call her. And little Agent Darling there said that she had taken an oath to the president. And then, Congress had to correct her in her testimony and say, no, you mean you took an oath to uphold the Constitution, not to the president. Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. And she was a lawyer. Remember her? Little blonde girl? Yeah. But anyway, this is amazing. That Trump demanded loyalty from, if you want loyalty, why don't you just ask him to marry you? Then he would promise to love, honor, and obey, and perhaps cherish. But he's not your wife. He's the director of the FBI, and it turns out that Trump asked him to the White House, and guess what they left out? Let's look at the timeline, shall we? All right, I'm going to play it for you because you don't want to hear it from me, right? You don't want to hear it from some girl. So let's do this.
Right. So I told them again that there were a number of press accounts of statements that have been made by the vice president and other high-ranking White House officials about General Flynn's conduct that we knew to be untrue. And we told them how we knew that how we had this information, how we had acquired it, and how we knew that it was untrue. And we walked the White House counsel, who also had an associate there with him, through General Flynn's underlying conduct, the contents of which I obviously cannot go through with you today because it's classified. But we took them through in a fair amount of detail of the underlying conduct, what General Flynn had done, and then we walked through the various press accounts and how it had been falsely reported. We also told the White House counsel that General Flynn had been interviewed by the FBI on February 24th. Mr. McGahn asked me how he did, and I declined to give him an answer to that. And we then walked through with Mr. McGahn essentially why we were telling them about this. And the first thing we did was to explain to Mr. McGahn that the underlying conduct that General Flynn had engaged in was problematic in and of itself. Secondly, we told him we felt like the Vice President and others were entitled to know that the information that they were conveying to the American people wasn't true.
Yeah, but
And we wanted to make it really clear right out of the gate that we were not accusing Vice President Pence of knowingly providing false information to the American people. And in fact, Mr. McGahn responded back to me to let me know that anything that General Flynn would have said would have been based, anything that Vice President Pence would have said would have been based on what General Flynn had told him. We told him the third reason is because we were concerned that the American people had been misled about the underlying conduct and what General Flynn had done. And additionally, that we weren't the only ones that knew all of this, that the Russians also knew about what General Flynn had done, and the Russians also knew that General Flynn had misled the Vice President and others. Because in the media accounts, it was clear from the Vice President and others that they were repeating what General Flynn had told them, and that this was a problem because not only did we believe that the Russians knew this, but that they likely had proof of this information. And that created a compromise situation, a situation where the national security advisor essentially could be blackmailed by the Russians.
Oh, God.
Finally, we told them that we were giving them all of this information so that they could take action, the action that they deemed appropriate. I remember that Mr. McGahn asked me whether or not General Flynn should be fired, and I told him that that really wasn't our call, that was up to them, but that we were giving them this information so that they could take action.
Okay, that happened on January 26th, that meeting with Sally Yates and the White House counsel, Mr. McGahn, and Mr. McGahn brought in some deputy counsel, and she brought somebody from the security agency, inside the FBI over with her, too. So January 26th, Sally Yates goes to the White House with this bombshell. The next day, the president calls Jim Comey. And the president tells Jim Comey, you better get your ass to the White House. Because Comey said, through his associates who are now talking to the newspaper, because they were instructed never to talk to any journalists as long as he was head of the FBI. And that no longer being the case, they said that they feel free now to tell what Comey told them about this meeting. So on January 26th, Sally Yates goes to the White House. The next day, Donald Trump summons James Comey to the White House for dinner and asks him, are you going to be a loyal foot soldier in this? We know about Flynn. Sally Yates told us. We know everything. How are you going to play this? What are you going to do with this information? And James Comey tells him, I am not loyal to you. I am not a reliable political stooge. I am not reliable in the conventional political sense. And then Trump presses him some more. Later in the dinner, he again says to Comey, I need your loyalty. ... if you want to keep your job. And Comey again replies, he will not give him loyalty. He will give him honesty. And did not pledge his loyalty, according to the accounts of the conversation from people close to Comey who he shared this with, and said, as long as I'm the director, never tell this to the press. And then Trump said, how about some honest loyalty? I mean, what are we doing, business in a schoolyard here? What is the honest loyalty? And he said, you can have that. Now, we all know that Trump demands uber loyalty from the people who work for him. It has been his key priority. And he fires anybody who he perceives to be disloyal to him. And he will go to bat for anybody, no matter what their crime, no matter what Sally Yates said. General Flynn was an agent of a Russian government. He's not acting in the best interest of the United States. And we know that. And so do the Russians. And you're out there lying. Your whole staff is lying. Pence is lying. And she said, I want to make clear that I'm not saying that he knows he's lying, Pence. I'm not here to tell you that. He did know he was lying. Oh, no, he knew he was lying because Elijah Cummings had sent a letter to the White House saying, Flynn's a Russian agent. I really wouldn't swear him in as national security advisor. So we know, everybody knew. But anyway, the dinner, Mr. Comey described details of his refusal to pledge his loyalty to Mr. Trump to several people close to him on the condition that they not discuss it publicly while he was FBI director. But now that Mr. Comey has been fired, they felt free to discuss it on the condition of anonymity. We don't believe this to be an accurate account, said Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the girl who said her Twitter and her phone messages and her Instagrams were blowing up with FBI officers who were just so upset about the FBI and what a disaster it had become. And then upon further questioning, she folds. Well, I don't really know that many people in the FBI. So what happens? Apparently Trump was waiting for his mammogram results because he started a Twitter, he went into a tweet storm. And hang on, my Twitter just, and he writes, these are his tweets. Again, the story that there was collusion between the Russians and Trump campaign was fabricated by Dems as an excuse for losing the election. The fake media is working overtime today. As a very active president with lots of things happening, it is not possible for my surrogates to stand at a podium with perfect accuracy. Well, I'm sure if they typed it out, they could lie just as well. But, maybe we want that. Maybe the best thing to do would be to cancel all future press briefings and hand out written responses for the sake of accuracy. Yeah, I'll take that. I like things printed out. I'll take Sarah Huckabee saying her phone feed is blowing up and her messages are exploding and her emails explode with FBI officers saying that, we hate Comey and we can't, you got to get rid of him. And then following paragraph, I don't know that many FBI. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. You know why this is closing? Because my battery's dying. Because I've been tweeting up a storm today. Then he writes this. James Comey better hope that there are no tapes, and he puts that in quotation marks, of our conversation before he starts talking to the press. That's witness tampering. That's witness intimidation, because Comey is going to eventually be called to testify, same way Sally Yates was called to testify. An idiot boy sat on the TV and told Lester Holt his version of the dinner, which means he can't claim executive privilege. You moron. He can't say, whatever Comey and I spoke about at the White House during that dinner is privileged, because he sat there on the freaking TV and gave his account of the dinner and therefore waived executive privilege, which means Comey will get to say what his version is, except Comey will be under oath when he does it. Now, if the president wants to, you show me yours, I'll show you mine. If he wants to play that game, let's swear him in and get him under oath too. And then somebody will be charged with perjury. And I really doubt it'll be my boyfriend.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit randyrhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
I love Herky Jerky because it's big protein, big flavor, big packs, and teeny tiny carbs. And that's why jerky is my favorite snack, but you cannot get the best stuff at the gas station. You have to order it online from herkyjerky.com, the best purveyors of jerky I have ever found. Herky Jerky is the official snack of the Randi Rhodes Air Force, and it comes in elk and buffalo, beef, and bacon. Oh yes, bacon, hot, mild, 14 other incredible flavors. And for the month of May, $6 off any order of $60 or more. Just use promo code SPRING. Free shipping as always when you order 2 packs or more. Try the venison, the beef, the buffalo, the bacon, the elk. Try the sticks. Try the slabs. Beef, elk, venison, bacon sticks, the most amazing thing you have ever had. The sticks have the right bite to them. The flavor is amazing, delicious, and fresh every time. And $6 off your order of 60 or more. Visit herkyjerky.com right now. herkyjerky.com.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a diversified media enterprises production. I'm Doug Cunningham. The Communications Workers of America say that AT&T's race to the bottom has cost America 12,000 jobs. A new report from the union reveals a sprawling web of 38 call centers in 8 countries that the CWA says is driving a race to the bottom for low wages and compromising quality service for millions of AT&T customers. CWA says workers at AT&T call centers in Mexico, Colombia, and the Philippines sold the names and full or partial Social Security numbers of hundreds of thousands of U.S. customers, prompting a record fine by the FCC. During a CWA strike at Verizon last year, union reps were confronted by armed security in the Philippines as they sought a meeting with Verizon management. CWA was in the Dominican Republic this week to investigate what's happening to AT&T jobs shipped there and the anti-union backlash CWA says Dominican AT&T workers are facing. CWA's study on AT&T's offshoring of jobs also examines the impact on U.S. communities when call center jobs are lost. Rather than keep the jobs in America, CWA says AT&T instead is turning to low-wage countries with weak labor protections, and that's a risk to AT&T customers as well. The National Association of Letter Carriers' annual Stamp Out Hunger food drive has given an astounding 1.4 billion pounds of food to local food pantries for the needy since it started 25 years ago. The union is urging you to use the plastic bag sent to your mailbox to load it with food and put it out by your mailbox early this Saturday morning. NALC's Pam Donato says union postal workers are publicizing the food drive by any means necessary to make this huge food drive happen.
We use social media a lot now, certainly use TV and radio and posters, flyers, church bulletins, anything that we can, anything that would catch somebody's attention to remind them that the second Saturday in May, May 13th, is the day they can leave a food donation at their mailbox and it will get to a local pantry. We believe that this food drive is a great cause, and we're just grateful to postal customers across the country who help us meet that need every year, and we just want to say thank you.
Donato's union is at the heart of a collective effort to meet a real food need for the most vulnerable among us. It's a powerful example of the spirit of collective action for the public good.
We've got partners that include United Food and Commercial Workers who go a long way to make sure that we can pay for those postcards. The Postal Service is an invaluable partner. We could not do this event if it weren't for them. And certainly we have United Way, the AFL-CIO. We've got partners that are really deep in their commitment to making sure that the issue of hunger is dealt with at the local community level.
WIN is made possible in part by the OPEIU, the Office and Professional Employees International Union. You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
The Randi Rhodes Show is brought to you by our partners at ITM Trading. Call them at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on randyrhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or progressivevoices.com now.
Okay, a friend of mine made this product, okay? I swear to God, this is a real product, and they made a video to go along with it, and I just just freaking love it. So,
hey, Jesus here. Now, I know you think my dad and I are all-knowing, all-seeing, yada yada yada, but well, we've made a few mistakes. I mean, nipples on men, am I right? So, I saw a tweet about a new product called the Tiny Hands Grabbing Female Urinator Device. Well, that's when we realized our mistake. See, who knew what an inconvenience it would be for you girls to have to pee sitting down all the time? But this product's funny, right? I mean, a tiny little hand grabs you by the Who keeps bleeping me? Dad?
Oh, this is huge. Trust me, it'll be fantastic.
But seriously, a percentage of all proceeds go to support victims of sexual assault, which is a really cool idea.
Yeah, it is.
And remember, grabbing anyone by the is a major sin. So head on over to the link below and get yours today. Oh, and your new president? The prayers I've been getting now? Oy vey. Plus, I had my whole second coming trip planned soon, but no visa for this guy.
It's a real product. They really made it. It's called, you go to www.bleepgrabbing.com, but if you add a /Randy to it, they'll take $5 off. It's selling for $19.95. I swear I get nothing for doing this. I did it because they are donating a lot of the proceeds to groups that take care of women who have been victims of violence. So they were trying to think of something that they could sell, and they created this little plastic grabber, and you put the grabber right there, and then you could stand up and you can just let it whiz. So anyway, it's bleepgrabbing.com /Randy, and you could order this thing. They'll take $5 off if you use the /Randy. But I thought it was just such a great way to raise money for victims of violence, for female victims of violence. It's just hysterical. So thank you guys for turning me on to this and letting me play your little ad. All right, Barbara in Oregon.
Hi. Rod Rosenstein.
Rod, baby. And you see,
yeah.
with the bleepgrabbing.com thing, you can have your own Rod.
Right.
Right.
They're reporting today, of course, he will fit right in with the Trump campaign. They're reporting today he did not threaten to quit.
Mm-hmm.
So, he'll fit in.
Well, who's reporting it?
CNN.
Oh. And CNN is attributing that to whom?
An interview with him. A Washington CNN Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein denies he threatened to quit.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Well, he must have threatened something else then, because obviously they sent Trump out to disabuse everybody of all the lies we were told. That
right.
That it was, Rod Rosenstein's condemnation of Comey and his recommendation that Comey be fired, because, Rod Rosenstein said that he objected to statements by the White House aides, citing Mr. Rosenstein's critical assessment of Mr. Comey's job performance to justify the firing. Has he denied that?
Well, what can we say? It's Trump.
Right. Exactly. And here's the problem. When you have a president who has been demonstrably caught lying over and over, and even when presented with photographic evidence of smaller crowd sizes, with aerial photography and other methods, and he still denies the fact that his crowd size was smaller than Barack Obama's crowd size. He still denies the fact that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. You see, this all goes back to that. When you look at the Comey dinner that he had, what's he sitting there talking to Comey about? I mean, obviously, Sally Yates had been to the White House not just the day before, but that day too. Sally Yates had 2 meetings at the White House, as we now know. One was on the 26th, and then she went back on the 27th. The night of the 27th is the dinner with Comey. Trump summons Comey to the White House and says, come here, meet me for dinner. Comey didn't want to go because, Comey said he didn't want to, or Comey's associates said they didn't want to seem, he didn't want to seem chummy with the president, who he was investigating, number one, but he felt he could not turn down the president of the United States, so he went. And what did Trump talk to him about for like the first part of the dinner? He talked to him about his crowd sizes. He talked to him about his historic victory, which he didn't have. So I just, so Rod didn't threaten to quit. Okay, but Rod also didn't, according to Rod, he was not the person who recommended Comey be fired. And Donald Trump shows up on the TV saying, I didn't recommend, he didn't recommend. He said, recommend or not recommend, I was going to do it anyway. Rick in Los Angeles.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Good.
I'll tell you, Trump is such a damn liar. You just can't believe a word the guy says. This whole version of Comey, that Comey is the one who asked for the dinner. I mean, give me a break. Comey.
Your phone's dying.
Any appearance of propriety.
Your phone's dying. Sean in Vancouver, Washington.
Randy, how are you doing today?
How are you?
Well, I'm fantastic. My voice of reason, I've missed you so much. I'm so glad you came back. You have kept my sanity going. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm losing mine, but small price to pay for yours, right?
Well, we appreciate the sacrifice. So I wanted to chime in. I'm actually a corporate investigator.
Mm-hmm.
I have been for 20 years. I'm a certified interview and interrogation professional. I'm the guy that, if there's a sexual harassment complaint, I'm the guy who comes into your company and follows up on that.
Oh, I was going to say how many corporations are investigating and what are they investigating? Yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So when you go to some guy or some girl, I guess, that is suspected of being a harasser in the workplace and making life miserable for people around, let's say it was me, okay? Let's say I'm harassing Howard, and you come to me. If I say to you, Sean, am I under investigation? Are you going to answer that question?
No, I'll lie to your face and tell you that you're not. I don't want you to know you're under investigation until I'm ready for you to know. And I'll keep that investigation as quiet for as long as possible until I absolutely need to let you know you're under investigation. And at that point, that's when I'm talking to you about what have you done. We keep that stuff quiet. And also, I found it really interesting when I was watching the Lester Holt interview, when Trump was doing something that I actually do in interviews too, which is where you try to convince the person. For example, I'll say something like, well, there's a lot of problems going on in this location. Wouldn't you agree? And I'll kind of nod at you, yes. And if you answer yes back to me, that's actually what we call a soft form of admission. And that at that point, I kind of know I got something on you. But listening to Lester Holt, he must have gone through the same training I did, because, boy, he was really nailing Cheeto down on all the different, so when did you have dinner, who asked who? I was like, wow, this isn't an interview, this is an interrogation.
Yeah, it was.
And, of course, and it was beautiful. And everything is now, so Cheeto put himself on the record as well, even though he wasn't under oath, that we now have a video record of his version of those events that can be used later on in any testimony if Comey comes out and says, well, this is what happened, and if Cheeto says, well, no, it didn't happen that way, so well, we have this video and now we have this. So it was a really interesting interview.
Here's the thing. Comey will be under oath, and Trump was on under Lester Holt. So
right.
So if Donald Trump wants to dispute Comey's sworn testimony, then Donald Trump is going to have to allow himself to be sworn. And that would be just, wow, I would tune in for that dog and pony show any day. And, of course, I will take bets. And anybody that wants to bet against Comey, please do see me, because, I would never, I will, if you want to bet on Trump, I'm your girl. Let's place that bet. Let's do it. I'll even give you like 94-1 odds or something very Kentucky Derby-ish. What was that, 54-1 or so? Yeah, I'll do it.
Right.
But, idiot boy. And he also waived executive privilege by telling this to Lester Holt, so now he can't claim executive privilege, which is what he tried to claim with Sally Yates, right? Saying that Sally Yates couldn't testify, and of course that was bullcrap. But this man just gives it all away. It's almost like he's daring us to take him out.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let me add on one more thing, Randy. The investigators, the people who do investigations, are not the people you want to make angry. Because I'll tell you, I've worked in places where people treated us badly. We can go find stuff on you. If you really don't want to activate our senses and get us looking into your stuff, not a good idea.
Oh, you're like an angry girlfriend. You would actually spite F them? You would?
Yeah, but we also have the powers to do it too. So
oh man,
that's kind of we have the training.
That's creepy. I don't approve. I gotta say, I don't like this spite investigation.
Well, no. You have to have done something. It's a long story. I could tell you if we had free time, but it's one of those things where if you pique my interest and I go looking, generally I can find something. So you don't want to make enemies of the FBI. Is the point I'm trying to make. He's really making enemies of all these people who are already investigating.
You know what? It's not just the FBI. This man has attacked all of our intelligence agencies. Now he's attacking our law enforcement agencies. I mean, there is nothing that, there is nobody and nothing who, reports real stuff that's really jeopardizing the democracy or American democracy or an insertion of a foreign adversary into our elections. You can't report that in Trump world because he will actually turn on you even if you risk your life for this country. This is why it was so telling when he trashed John McCain for being captured. This guy will turn on anybody's service. No, nobody is worthy. You either pledge loyalty to Trump or you're garbage. The intelligence communities are garbage. Now the FBI is garbage and in chaos. Everything is garbagey. Everything's in chaos. Everything that he keeps attacking all of our institutions that keep us safe. That's a dangerous man.
When he said that our Constitution was archaic and needed to be scrapped, that was the moment when I'm like, why? How are we not impeaching him today? If Barack Obama had said that, if Bill Clinton had said that, they would the fires and the pitchforks.
Yeah, definitely.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randy Rhodes Show.
Buy a stinking podcast.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
He will not be making an announcement regarding that agreement until after he returns from the G7.
Temporary reprieve for the planet. Trump postpones decision on Paris climate agreement.
If the wind were to pick up, that could circulate air down in that tunnel and release radioactive particles into the air.
Emergency declared at the most contaminated nuclear site in the nation. Majority of toxic Superfund sites located near low-income areas, plus a win for taxpayers and the climate, as Republicans fail to repeal methane flaring rule.
All of those happy failures and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Comedians, what are some shows we might hear on Redneck NPR? Guy Branum.
Wait, don't tell me about climate change.
Points, very good.
This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, another startling reminder this week that, there is a downside to nuclear energy.
Yes, there is. The Department of Energy declared an emergency on Tuesday at the Hanford Nuclear Reservation in Washington state. That's 150 miles or so from Seattle, after a section of a sealed tunnel caved in that contained rail cars contaminated with nuclear waste. Officials say no radiation was released and no workers were injured or exposed at the federal Superfund site, which for decades manufactured plutonium for nuclear weapons. In an interview with local news, Tom Carpenter of watchdog group Hanford Challenge said the incident again raises concerns over the safety of the decades-long cleanup effort.
This is absolutely a huge warning to Hanford, to the federal officials who oversee that site, and to the state of Washington. There are bad things at Hanford that could blow up, that could contaminate the communities, be a three-state disaster.
And speaking of Superfund sites, there are about 1,400 abandoned, contaminated sites in the United States that are so polluted and so toxic that the federal government has assumed the cost and responsibility for cleaning them up. According to a new analysis from the Environmental Protection Agency, 70% of the country's most contaminated Superfund sites are located within a mile of low-income family housing. Bad news for marine life. Oxygen levels in the ocean are falling 2 to 3 times faster than predicted due to man-made global warming. Because warmer water can't hold as much dissolved oxygen as colder water, scientists predicted years ago that as oceans warm, the amount of oxygen in the oceans would drop, causing dead zones where marine life can't survive. Based on decades of ocean data, researchers at Georgia Tech conclude that dissolved oxygen in the ocean started dropping in the 1980s and appears to be unfolding about 2 to 3 times faster than previously predicted.
Well, that's not good.
No, it's not.
But at least they're not living inside a nuclear waste dump, so there's that, right?
Yeah. Meanwhile, the White House announced on Tuesday that President Trump will delay, again, a decision about whether to withdraw the United States from the historic United Nations Paris Climate Agreement signed by President Obama. On Tuesday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said Trump will wait until after the G7 meeting in late May to decide.
The president wants to continue to meet with his team, meet with not just the economic piece, but his environmental team, and come to a decision on what's the best interest of the United States using the expertise that surrounds him.
And by expertise, of course, he means lobbyists, corporations, and fossil fuel interests, I suppose.
Yes, he does. And those industry trade groups are heavily lobbying Trump to withdraw. But major American corporations like Google and major investors that control trillions of dollars in assets are urging Trump to remain in the accord. UN Environment Chief Eric Solheim warned Trump last week that the U.S. will lose jobs if it pulls out because China, India, and Europe will snap up the best power sector jobs in the future.
And even some companies like Exxon, yes, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's old company Exxon, are encouraging him to stay in the agreement so that the U.S. has a seat at the table. Otherwise, the world is going to leave the U.S. behind.
Finally, some good news with a win for American taxpayers. Senate Republicans on Wednesday failed in their attempt to repeal an Obama-era regulation requiring the oil and gas industry to stop leaks and the flaring of harmful methane, a potent greenhouse gas, from their operations on public lands. The industry lobbied heavily for repeal, but environmental groups said the rule was crucial to stop the industry from wasting the public's natural gas, costing taxpayers more than $300 million a year in lost royalties. That's enough to power about 5 million homes. 3 Republican senators joined Democrats in narrowly defeating the repeal.
And who were those Senate Republicans?
John McCain of Arizona, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina,
his buddy,
and Susan Collins of Maine.
Well, good for them. Glad they did the right thing. For the moment. For one single vote. But I'll take it. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget you can download our reports anytime via Stitcher, TuneIn, or iTunes. Find us, follow us, and share us worldwide via the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
I think I got it right this time.
This has been the Green News Report on the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Every story has a beginning, and the story of Trump's relationship with Russia begins with money. In 1995, Trump reported nearly $1 billion in losses on his personal income taxes after a string of Trump casinos and hotels went bankrupt. Due to these repeated business failures, Trump struggles to get financing for future projects, right as the U.S. housing market is picking up. Many banks won't lend to him. Bankers even coined the term the Donald risk. Yet somehow Trump is able to find financing to launch project after project. How? Through financing linked to Russia in a variety of ways. This was a mutually beneficial arrangement. Russian oligarchs got rich buying up state-owned companies after the fall of the Soviet Union, and they needed safe harbors for their money. Foreign real estate was the perfect investment. Russian money poured into properties in cities like London and New York, and Trump saw a way to get back on his feet. Each deal raises questions and warrants further scrutiny. For example, Trump's Soho raises 50 floors of questions. Financing was done in part by Bayrock, a company with offices in Trump Tower with known links to money laundering and Russian organized crime. In fact, one of Trump Soho investors, Viktor Krapunov, was accused of laundering over $3 million in public assets by purchasing 3 units in Trump Soho. Over time, all this added up to the point where in 2008, Donald Trump Jr. said, "The Russians make a pretty disproportionate cross-section of our assets." To understand this story, it is also important to understand that as Trump's Russia business ties deepen, the Kremlin under Vladimir Putin begins to embrace a hybrid warfare doctrine to guide its foreign policy. Putin saw the liberal color revolutions, the rose, orange, and tulip, as major threats to his power and feared he might be next. 2011 begins with the Arab Spring and culminates with protests in Moscow. In response, Putin develops Russia's hybrid warfare doctrine. This combines hard military power with soft power. The Russians engage in information warfare, professionalize their hacking efforts, and modernize their military. As part of this strategy, Putin sought to undercut Western democracies from the inside. In effect, he turned Russia into a venture capitalist for far-right reactionary movements around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
Before the 2016 election, Putin provided support to far-right movements such as the UKIP in Britain and the National Front in France. He also supported fringe movements in America, such as the Texas Nationalist Movement and Yes, California. Their efforts continued after our election, most recently in the French and Dutch elections. Russia doesn't necessarily think these movements are going to seize power, but Putin benefits even if they don't. His goal is to sow discord and distrust and destabilize Western governments.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's take a look at how Russian strategy and Trump's business ties to Russia converge. It is important to emphasize that Russia did not need Trump to win the presidency for their strategy to pay dividends. They saw him as a man who could be a major force for instability, even if he never became president. In Trump, they saw a celebrity with a massive Twitter following, a man with questionable ethics willing to tout absurd conspiracy theories like birtherism. And on top of all that, he had decades worth of ties to Russian money. In other words, he was the perfect mark. In November 2013, Trump brings Miss Universe to Moscow. Trump spends days attached at the hip to senior Russian officials and Kremlin-linked oligarchs. He says glowing things about Putin. He films a music video for the son of a Putin-connected oligarch, and he does it in the boardroom of the notorious Ritz-Carlton. What happened there deserves more investigation. Now, fast forward to the 2016 campaign. Trump's inner circle is filled with people who have ties to Russia. Trump personally announces an obscure individual named Carter Page as the top foreign policy advisor. We now know that a FISA court found probable cause to suspect Page of being a Russian agent. Paul Manafort, Trump's campaign chairman, received millions from a close Putin ally. Jeff Sessions chairs Trump's policy team. Michael Flynn is a top foreign policy advisor. Now, I want to zoom in on a couple of key moments to show what it looks like when we pull all the pieces together. First, July 2016. Page travels to Moscow and meets with Igor Sechin on July 7th, the head of Rosneft and one of Putin's closest allies. A week later, Trump upends years of Republican hawkishness towards Russia, changing the Republican Party platform to end support for lethal assistance to Ukraine. A few days later, senior Trump campaign associates meet with Ambassador Kislyak. 2 days after that, WikiLeaks publishes the first batch of DNC emails, which we know were hacked by the Russians. And let me zoom in on one more moment. Friday, October 7th. The Billy Bush Access Hollywood tape is published at 4:03 p.m. And then, 29 minutes later, at 4:32 p.m., the first batch of Podesta emails are released, just as Roger Stone predicted. After the election, contacts between Trump officials and the Kremlin continued. But the scope of the case began to take shape on January 6th when the United States intelligence community releases a report concluding that Russia hacked our elections with the specific goal of putting Donald Trump in the White House. After that, a steady stream of new reporting adds details and reveals facts previously unknown to the public. The Steele dossier is revealed. And after Trump takes office, a steady stream of scandals emerge, leading to the resignation of Michael Flynn. Republicans in Congress scramble to cover for Trump, and Trump fires the leading figures investigating his ties to Russia, including FBI Director Comey. So what do we know? We know that there were two campaigns. There was the official campaign to elect Donald Trump, and there was the Russian campaign to elect Donald Trump. We also know there were many connections between these two campaigns. We know that the people involved with these campaigns were talking to each other. We have recorded over 20 known contacts between them. We know that their communications efforts were aligned. Trump mentioned WikiLeaks 164 times during the final month of the campaign. We know that there are possible financial connections. We know that even with Flynn gone, Trump still has key staffers in place who have helped cover for him, including at the National Security Council. And we know that Trump fired the key people investigating his ties to Russia, including the FBI director. Two things are clear. First, this is a massive, sprawling case, and there is much more to come and many more facts to come to light. We have not yet gotten to the bottom of it. And second, it is absolutely imperative that an independent investigation be conducted to uncover the truth. We have a president who wants to keep the American people in the dark. Until the truth comes to light, we need your help to keep the pressure on. At themoscowproject.org, you can find ways to help. Whoever you choose to be involved, we should all make our voices heard.
Thank you. That's the Center for American Progress, their Moscow report. It's the moscowproject.org. It's a big wow, isn't it? When you see it all in 5 minutes and you see all the newspaper article. This is exactly how people who do this kind of work do this kind of work. It's precisely how. So I'm glad we'll leave this video up so that you can watch it again and again and again. And you know what you might notice? I swear to God, I just want to give you a little help here. What you might notice is when I watch things or you see what I'm doing, I'm writing things down. Things that actually dates, times, places, newspaper articles, where I can go to get that newspaper article, right? So the moscowproject.org, sit there over the weekend, I don't know, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, whatever, with your cup of coffee, watch this, write it down. July 16th, Carter Page goes to Moscow. And now we know that Comey has been investigating Donald Trump and that campaign since July. What do you think piqued their interest? You see what I mean? And all of a sudden, and then a couple of days after he gets back, Carter Page does go to the GOP National Convention. Kislyak is at the GOP National Convention, and the GOP platform is now changed that to say that that the United States of America has changed its position should a GOP candidate win the presidency. That says that we will not help Ukraine with lethal weapons. We will not. And of course, we used to, because, Putin wanted to invade. So, and then, of course, Donald Trump goes out on the campaign trail. There's so many details, but Donald Trump goes out on the campaign trail saying NATO is obsolete. And of course, that is one of Russia's, fondest goals is to destroy NATO, which is why he's doing all this to upend European democracies as well as ours. Dutch democracy, French democracy, all over the world. You see, you see this fake news and you see propaganda from the Kremlin. You see these Russian bots and cyborgs at work, putting all kinds of fake news in front of targeted people in various European countries who are likely to vote for a guy like Macron over somebody like Marine Le Pen. Okay, but thank God France actually, if it happened in reverse, if this had happened, if France had gone first in their election and this big Russia story was happening in France and then we had our election, trust me, America wouldn't know or care. But because it happened here and the Europeans watch our news and care about the globe upon which they toil and dwell, they knew what happened here. Because they pay attention to our global news networks. They pay attention to CNN, for God's sake. Christiane Amanpour is a known quantity all over the world because they watch CNN. They watch our news. And so everybody around the world in democracies where they have free press understood what was going on here. BBC was reporting what was going on here. Guardian was reporting what was going on here. You had all CNN Global reporting what was going on here. Now, again, remember, if it had happened the other way around, if the French had gone first and then our election, I would have known. You would have known. But the Trump voters wouldn't have known, nor would they have cared. Now, today, something else happens. Today, Trump's, Lindsey Graham said he was interested in Trump's financial dealings, and everybody's thinking about, should we subpoena his tax returns? Will that help us in this endeavor? And so Trump, says, I hired, as if this is something new that he did. This is something proactive. This is something that he did to help us out. He said he hired a top-notch law firm in Washington, D.C., and they were going to write a letter to Lindsey Graham, as if this was all new stuff, right? Telling Lindsey Graham that he doesn't have any loans in Russia. He doesn't have any business in Russia. He doesn't take Russian money. He doesn't know any Russians. He doesn't see Russians. He doesn't even go to Brighton Beach. And he said this was going to be in response to Lindsey Graham's new request for some financial material from Donald Trump. Yes, so you know what we got today? Today we got a letter dated March 8th. It is May 12th, for those of you who listen on the podcast. So March 8th, This law firm that has been his law firm since 2005, he hired a new law firm with a great reputation. Fantastic. A fantastic reputation in Washington, D.C. They're the top-notch, top shelf, top drawer. They're big league. And I just hired them to be responsive to Lindsey Graham. This letter is over a month and a half old. And the law firm is Morgan Lewis. Sherry Dillon, the one that did the Little Dog and Pony Show, saying we're putting everything in a blind trust. And might I remind you that Morgan Lewis, Sherry Dillon's law firm, has been voted Moscow's law firm of the year as recently as 2016. How do I know that? Let's see. It's on Morgan Lewis's website. It's their own press release. And this right here on my screen, as you can see, is their Moscow offices. Our Moscow office includes more than 40 lawyers and staff who have been working together for many years. Our lawyers are well known in the Russian market and have deep familiarity with the local legislation, practices, and key players. We provide a full-service business practice for international and Russian clients. I wonder how you became Donald Trump's attorney. I wonder if he was Googling, law firms that have full-service business practices for international and Russian clients, including advice on corporate finance, M&A, mergers and acquisition, transactional finance, litigation and international arbitration, energy and natural resources project, real estate property transactions, labor and employment issues, immigration, and a wide range of regulatory matters. In addition to providing advice focused on Russia, the team represents clients in the entire region encompassing Russia, Kazakhstan, etc. I think you get the picture. This is their website. You don't make this crap up. You just Google it. All right. So Sherry Dillon, who works for for Moscow's law firm of the year 2016, releases, she gives the letter to Lindsey Graham. I don't know who released it to the public. I can tell you I got it from a reporter on Twitter and started to read it as I was waiting to find out that, yes, my mammogram was completely normal today. I don't have cancer anymore. Okay, she writes to Donald Trump. This letter is not to Lindsey Graham. This letter is old, and it's a month and a half old. And she's writing to Donald Trump. She said, we, Sherry Dillon and William Nelson, have served as tax counsel to you and the Trump Organization, TTO, overdrive, continuously since 2005. Well, here's an admission. As such, now check out the words. These people are wordsmiths, man. They probably are wordsmiths in Russian, Ukrainian, Kazakh, probably Urdu and other languages as well. But man, can they make your head hurt with their choice of words. She says, as such, we are familiar with your U.S. federal income tax returns and with transactions that are reported on your returns. In this capacity, you have asked us to review your returns for the past 10 years. Following such review, we hereby confirm the following facts. As disclosed in your most recent, not tax returns. Oh, no, they shift gears now. Because, they're familiar with his tax returns. They're familiar. I don't know if they're intimately. I don't know how familiar. I don't know if they ever bought the dinner, the drink for the tax returns, if they had a conversation, if they asked for the tax returns, loyalties. Don't know. But she is now quoting the executive branch personal financial disclosure report. See how they jump from the tax returns to the executive branch personal financial disclosure report filed on May 16th, 2016? Yeah. She said, you hold interests as the sole or principal owner of more than, and here's a problem, 500 separate entities. Are these shell companies, Sherry? Are these do they bank in Cyprus, these entities? I'm not really sure what these entities are, but she said collectively these entities are referred to and do business as TTO. Because you operate these businesses almost exclusively through sole proprietorships, S corporations, and or partnerships, your personal federal income tax returns reflect income that is earned by these entities and interest that is paid or received by these entities, as well as all income that you directly earned or interest that you paid or received. And then here's the key thing. With few exceptions, as detailed below, your tax returns do not reflect any income of any type from Russian sources, any debt owed by you or TTO to Russian lenders, or any interest paid by you, controlled by you or TTO, or any equity investments in Russian persons or entities and entities controlled by you. It's a long sentence. Or any equity or debt investments by you or TTO in Russian entities. The exceptions are... Okay, let's break here. We'll come back. I'll tell you the exceptions. They only amount to a measly, just around $107 million. These are the exceptions, $107 million. What is $107 million anyway between friends? But there's this one sentence in here that I have to read it to you. All right, 24 after.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit randyrhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Buy a stinking podcast. Well, new economic numbers are out, and the Trump administration saw the worst economic growth in the last 3 years. And the really scary part is, who knows where the economy is going from here? That's why it is the perfect time to buy gold. Call ITM Trading now and speak to a precious metals consultant and ask for a free gold kit. Just say you're a Randi Rhodes listener and you'll get a complimentary copy of their newsletter. This issue examines 3 troubling economic problems that the Trump administration must solve or risk sending the U.S. economy into a full-blown recession or even worse. The newsletter also examines how you can benefit from these current economic conditions and how to take the right steps to protect yourself. ITM Trading has a long history of publishing original material that breaks down the complex financial system, enabling you to make informed financial decisions. You will love this information. Call my friends at ITM Trading today at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit and get the complimentary newsletter. 1-888-OWN-GOLD. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
Helicopter parents hovering over their children. Is this you? Welcome to She Persisted. I'm Melissa Carter for the Progressive Voices Network. You should see my finger. I was not aware of how prevalent helicopter parenting was until I recently had dinner with a friend who is a teacher. She told me that on the first day of school this year, she witnessed parents coming in to stock and organize their children's lockers. Oh, and did I mention that she is a high school teacher? I then went on Facebook to ask people for other examples of helicopter parenting, and there was no shortage of responses. A teacher's 5th grade class had a parent who tied her daughter's shoes. Another witnessed a mother who kept her 2 sons' college schedules and called them every day, at least twice, to make sure they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. Some parents take part in the job interviewing process. Can you believe it? For the recent college grads, going as far as negotiating the salary. One young man got terminated from his job, and his dad met with the manager to get his job back. Some employees no longer call in sick to work. Their parents do it for them. What are we doing to our children? I thought being a parent meant you prepare your child for the real world. But helicopter parents seem incredibly selfish, as if the parents want to make sure that their children are not prepared for anything and need them for the rest of their lives. That's an attitude we take with our pets, not human beings. Someone once explained to me that the true test of how in shape someone is lies in their ability to recover from the exercise, not the exercise itself. And I think that same philosophy can be applied to life. It's not about avoiding stress and strain. It's the ability to rebound from it that shows how mature or stable a person is. I say your kids have enough friends, so stop trying to be one and start growing a backbone. You can be their friend when they're an adult, but when they're a child, you need to raise them. And then maybe you can land that helicopter and let your children grow up. This has been She Persisted for the Progressive Voices Network. I'm Melissa Carter.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randy Rhodes Show.
Okay. With few exceptions as detailed below, your tax returns do not reflect 1. Any income of any type from Russian sources. 2. Any debt owed by you or TTO to Russian lenders or any interest paid by you to TTO, controlled by you or TTO. Any equity investments by Russian persons or entities in entities controlled by you or TTO. Or any equity or debt investments by you or TTO in Russian entities. They like that word. The foreign income the exceptions are 1. In 2013, the Miss Universe pageant was held in Moscow, and of the $12.2 million of foreign income that it earned that year, a substantial portion of it was attributable to the Moscow event. In 2008, Trump Properties, LLC, sold an estate in Florida that it had acquired in 2005 for approximately $41 million to a Russian billionaire for $95 million. So far, we have $107 million from persons or entities, Russian. 3, over the years, and this is unbelievable, over the years, it is likely that TTO or third-party entities engaged in ordinary course sales of goods or services to Russians or Russian entities such as sales, rentals, fees for condominiums, sales of condominiums to Russians, okay, hotel rooms, rounds of golf, books, or Trump licensed products, for example, ties, mattresses, wine, etc., that could have produced income attributable to Russian sources. Such income would not have been separately identified as Russian in your books and records, and therefore not separately reflected on your tax returns. With respect to this last exception, the amounts are immaterial. She is actually saying that she's accepting from this reportage any sales of condominiums to Russians. Any sales of condominiums, any sales of New York City real estate apartments or Florida real estate apartment, $1 million, $4 million, $7 million apartment, $11 million apartments, those are immaterial things. When somebody is asking, did you get money from the Russians? Those are immaterial things. Oh, Sherry, let me tell you, you might think you're good, but if I can understand what you're doing here, you're not that good. This is unbelievable. This is just crazy. I love this sentence. The exception, over the years, it is likely that TTO or third-party entities. Now, who are these third-party entities? Are these shell companies? Are these Cayman Island companies that he start? What are the 500 entities? That's the you know what I mean? But this last sentence just kills me. One of the exceptions, over the years, it's likely that TTO or third-party entities engaged in ordinary course sales of goods or services to Russians or Russian entities, such as sales, rentals, fees for condominiums. Never mind the freaking mattresses that he sold in Russia. Never mind, whatever he sold. These are immaterial things. I got news for her. What you said in this letter is that Trump has no businesses in Russia except for the businesses he has in Russia. And Trump doesn't do business with Russians except for the Russians he does business with. Am I wrong? Chris in Brooklyn.
Nice setup, sister. Shabbat shalom.
Oh, igual.
Can those commies do capitalism or what?
Oof, they're good.
They are fine. They are so good. See, I thought I was the only one. I'm so glad you played those clips and these people and all these lawyers that are just really jiggering the system. Ain't it great?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, look at it this way. The end of the Lester Holt thing, that was like that slapped me in the face. Just like, I've got this letter. I've got this letter from the hugest, bigliest, wonderfulest, most incredible law firm. And they tell me that I have absolutely no investments in Russia. In Russia. In Russia. There's nothing between me and Russia at all. It's all because it's like as if how many things, how many properties, how many golf courses, how many estates, how many Ivankas do I own in Russia? Not a single one. But let's look at the other side. How much money has come over from our oligarchical pals from Russia to spend money on golf courses, as related in Golf Digest by the biographer of Jack Nicklaus?
Let's do something even simpler. It's Friday. People might be, imbibing a little. So let's do this very simply.
Oh, I'm imbibing.
Okay. In 2013, Russia was under U.S. sanctions. How the hell did he have a Miss Universe pageant in Russia in 2013? Shall we go to the website of Moscow's law firm or Russia's law firm of the year and look at what Morgan Lewis says? Quote, "We are particularly adept at advising our clients about compliance and sanction matters." This law firm is experienced in skirting the U.S.-placed Russian sanctions for U.S. real estate magnates, is what they say they're good at. How the hell does he have a pageant in freaking Russia when Russia is under sanctions for invading Ukraine?
Believe it or not, there is some good news to be heard here. I actually listened to a bevy of Trump supporters dyed in the wool. These people love this man beyond all reality. Mm-hmm. He is their Jesus Christ.
He's daddy. They call him daddy. You know that?
Daddy. Oh, God.
Oh, these are some sick freaks, man. Yeah, go ahead.
But they were all freaking out over the cracks in the foundation. They were looking and like, oh, my God, wait a second. There really is something wrong here. And they're trying to it does not compute, does not compute, does not compute. I mean, they're blind obeisance to this man right now. They're feeling the foundation starting to shake underneath them. It's like, wait a second, maybe there is something going on here.
Oh, you think?
You think? You think? But I got a movie pitch for you.
Oh.
The James Comey story.
Yeah.
My Dinner with Adult 45.
You know something? I wrote a book. I never published it, but it's so good. But the very first working title of this book was The Dinner.
And
I changed the title, but every time I hear about the dinner now, the dinner, it always comes down to a dinner. It always does.
It was not a successful dinner because no missiles were shot and no Syrians were harmed.
But didn't they have the most beautiful chocolate cake in the world?
It was a wonderful chocolate cake. But, Jimmy is going to be able to speak freely soon, don't you think? Your boyfriend there.
Oh, absolutely. Next week I know, I'm not sure of the day because they haven't confirmed a day, a time, but I know next week Rod, I love that name, Rod Rosenstein is going up to the senators and he's going to give, I believe it's an all senators briefing behind closed doors. I don't know what day. I heard, people were musing about Tuesday. But Comey's going to be called too. He is. And also, that the Senate wants Michael Flynn to come. This is just
getting better.
It's just starting. That's the whole thing. He knew that this was accelerating when they were on to Flynn. When you look at this timeline, Sally Yates goes to the White House. She meets with White House counsel on January 26th, says, Flynn, we got him dead to rights. This man is blackmailable. The Russians know what we know, and blah, blah, blah. And there's some underlying conduct that we're not clear, but I guess it's the payments. Because I can't imagine it was another Ritz-Carlton pee-pee party. He just doesn't seem the type. He seems much more like a guy who would make out with Kevin Spacey in the garage. You know what I mean? So anyway, that said, they came to the White House, Yates did, and told McGahn, the counsel at the White House, to Donald Trump, we got Flynn. And then they said, come back tomorrow. She came back tomorrow to show them some more stuff. And then that night, he summons Comey to dinner and says, are you going to be loyal to me or what? And then when he has to fire Comey, what does numbnuts do? He sends Paulie Walnuts over there to deliver the bad news to an empty Washington, D.C. office because Comey's out in L.A., which everybody knew. I mean, this guy is acting like a mafioso because he is.
Don Dalt 45.
Don Trump. Don Trump. That's who he is. He's Don Trump. Twitler is Don Trump.
Yeah.
All right. Rick in Los Angeles again. I was just talking to him. You had him on 2 lines. Jay in Nevada.
Hey, Randy. How you doing? Hey, I just got in, and I don't know if you talked about this. I was telling Howard. That tweet from Trump about hope there's no tapes. Everybody's talking about the White House taping the conversation. That comment that he made was more like, you better not have had a wire on me.
Oh, no.
Well, but you can read it both ways because...
Well, you could because Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, has a, I'm very familiar with what you need to do to record people. And in Washington, D.C., I work there. And in Washington, D.C., it's a one consent district, because it's not a state. So their law says that I can record you as long as I'm consenting to being recorded. I don't have to tell you I'm recording you. So it is possible.
Right, and then Karina was just that Judge Karina lady was just interviewing Trump, and she just asked him about that.
Who's Karina?
The black judge lady who's on Fox. She was a judge, and now she's a commentary, or she has her own show on Fox.
Oh, I absolutely don't watch that.
Yeah, well, either do I. I just know about her and just watch her. And she was asking Trump about what about asking that question about loyalty. And he goes, it's fine, you can do that, but I didn't ask him that. And then she asked about the tapes. Well, I don't want to go into that. But he's not, copying to that. But I'm thinking, and I'm trying to think like Trump. His comment was, there better not be no more tapes before you come out to the press. Thinking, well, he's already put that shadow of Obama taping him illegally. Comey's got a tape now, so he put that out there because, again, yesterday, like I said, he knows that Comey's not going to come out to say anything.
He's paranoid, my friend. We have a paranoid, psychopath as president of the United States. I mean, it's bad enough that we really did truly elect ourselves a reality TV star who, his claim to fame was firing people on the TV. But this man is this job is so above his pay grade.
It's over his head. This is a trainee. He's a trainee at McDonald's, and he's on the fry. He's a fry flipper. That's all he is.
And he keeps on eating the fries. I mean, he's going to get himself fired because there's a camera.
I hope he does, but they need to start doing it now. This is dangerous. This is not an on-the-job training.
No, it's bad enough that we, chose a reality TV star. I don't know what everybody expected who voted for him, but it's even worse. This man is ill-equipped, unequipped. He's not equal to the task. He doesn't know how government works. Did you see him last night explaining to Lester Holt, that he didn't even believe that the FBI had an investigation because you got Senate, you got House. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe the FBI is helping Senate. Maybe they're helping House. What the hell is he? The man has no.
He doesn't know it. It started out with the nuclear triad.
Oh, right.
There's so many bits of information out of his mouth directly from the stage that he doesn't know how government run. He's trying to run this like a business. He's trying to run it like we are his employees.
That's right.
That's what I said before. This is not a on-the-job training position unless you know exactly what to do and are level-headed, mature, and able to take an insult. This is not the job for this man.
No, it is not. He doesn't understand what a constitutional officer is expected to do. He didn't understand the oath of office when he took it. This is why he would ask the top independent law enforcement officer in the country if he would take a loyalty oath to him. No, Comey's already sworn a loyalty oath to the Constitution.
I wish the reporters in the situation room or the briefing room would say, hey, Spicer, would you lie for Trump? Because if he says no, there's so much evidence he's already done it.
Well, they did ask Spicer today about, the James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of a conversation. And he said, I can't answer questions about that. He said, they said, well, do tapes exist? He said, I won't answer that. Are there recording devices in the White House? I won't answer that. Well, Adam Schiff wants to know if there are recording devices in the White House.
Thanks, Randy.
You're welcome. So, sooner rather than later, we're going to find out a lot of answers to some very interesting questions.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Buy a stinking podcast.
I'm David Pakman, host of The David Pakman Show on the Progressive Voices channel. Check out this clip from my show. Sean Spicer yesterday blamed the Obama administration for not doing more to express their concerns about disgraced National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, which was bewildering, to put it lightly. NBC News reported yesterday, as I told you earlier in the show, that President Obama had specifically warned then President-elect Donald Trump about Michael Flynn in a November meeting. Okay, we did that earlier. I'm not going to redo that part of the story. Sean Spicer did his daily press briefing yesterday and said, basically, that the warning is because Obama just wasn't a fan of Michael Flynn, and said, hey, we should really be looking at the Obama administration because they renewed Flynn's security clearance. Let's take a look at this video of Sean Spicer, completely unhinged.
Well, the president doesn't disclose details of meetings that he has, which in this case was an hour-long meeting, but it's true that President Obama made it known that he wasn't exactly a fan of General Flynn's, which is frankly shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, that given that General Flynn had worked for President Obama, was an outspoken critic of President Obama's shortcomings, specifically as it related to his lack of strategy confronting ISIS and other threats around that were facing America. So the question that you have to ask yourself really is, if President Obama was truly concerned about General Flynn, why didn't he suspend General Flynn's security clearance, which they had just reapproved months earlier? Additionally, why did the Obama administration let Flynn go to Russia for a paid speaking engagement and receive a fee? I mean, there were steps that they could have taken that, if that was truly a concern, more than just a person that had bad blood.
But Obama renewed Flynn's security clearance. So, yeah, this is bogus. Michael Flynn had already been fired. They can try to, fired individuals can still try to hold on to clearances, and those are done by the agency they used to work for. In Flynn's case, it's the DIA. Spicer paints it like Obama went into a room and said, Michael Flynn, let's renew his security clearance. It's a totally different and unrelated process, Pat, than the one that you go through to become National Security Advisor. That was a routine matter for the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, way back when. It's not Obama saying, let's do this or that. And it's stunning that he's even bringing it up because it's been debunked so many times.
You know, President Truman used to have a sign on his desk that read, the buck stops here. For Trump, it's, hey, don't look at me. I mean, go to Steve Bannon first, go to Jared Kushner first, and if all else fails, I'll just blame Obama.
Go to the last president if all else fails. A tweet from the New York Times' Peter Baker sums this up pretty nicely. Quote, new presidents often blame predecessors for various things. Trump may be first to blame his national security advisor on his predecessor. Obama fired Flynn, but it's Obama's fault that Trump hired him, even though we know that he warned him. It's not computing.
Yeah, I mean, Republicans used to attack Obama for blaming too much on George W. Bush.
Yeah.
But Obama's attacks had a lot to do with the circumstances that he found himself in, like the 2 wars and the recession.
Yeah.
Trump is blaming Obama for actions that he himself took.
And Spicer actually said that Obama didn't take proactive steps to deny Michael Flynn's security clearance. Besides the fact that he fired him and that the reapproval of that clearance had nothing to do with Obama, this is genuinely embarrassing. Why didn't Obama warn us harder is basically the question. Obama fired him. Then Obama warned Trump about him. Then Sally Yates warned the White House about him. Then Sally Yates warned the White House about Flynn again. What more could they possibly have done? Oh, maybe Obama should have had Flynn murdered to really prevent Trump from being able to hire him. I mean, how far are we going to take this?
I mean, so much of this stuff was classified at the time, and it's not something that you would mention in a public setting, you know? So that's pretty much all they could do.
It's gone into Twilight Zone territory. It truly has. You've been listening to part of the David Pakman Show on the Progressive Voices channel. For full audio and video podcasts, interviews, and more, go to davidpakman.com and check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The David Pakman Show.
The Randi Rhodes Show is brought to you by our partners at ITM Trading. Call them at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit. 1-888-OWN GOLD.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
I just can't stop tweeting today. I don't know. I started too early, and now I'm, into the tweet. But Califani6 tweeted me that the call. I forget the caller I was talking to. I guess Jay in Nevada. The black judge he was watching on Fox News was Jeanine Pirro. Granny Camp Jeanine Pirro was black. That's news to me. So I was just tweeting you back. Yeah. I replied to you. You can follow me at Randi Rhodes. It's, kind of easy to find me. So, yeah, I've been tweeting all day. I'm just, my doctor told me today, you're fine, but you better slow it down, honey. Better slow it down. Go on vacation. Oh, I have to play you this before we call it a day here because we're really close to the end. Did you see Lawrence O'Donnell last night? I watched because, what's his name? The law professor, Tribe. Lawrence Tribe, who's a genius. He's brilliant. He's probably one of the best legal minds this country is lucky enough to have. Lawrence O'Donnell had him on to talk about this Lester Holt tape. And what Lawrence Tribe said was so freaking devastating. And this is what I was talking to Richard Painter about, too, at the top of my show, isn't this a conflict of interest? Isn't this an abuse of power, what he's doing with Comey? Isn't this like the most amazing thing that you've ever seen on tape that a U.S. president has ever sat down and done?
Well, it's much worse than just a conflict of interest. You're essentially dangling in front of the person who's supposed to be investigating the chaos swirling around you and perhaps you're basically saying, if you will assure me that I'm not going to be under investigation, then maybe I'll keep you on. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's essentially the language of bribery. It's the language of the underworld, of racketeering, not the language of a president who is supposed to be enforcing the rule of law. It's staggering. I mean, for all of the bizarre things that have happened in these 112 or 113 days, this is really like the 13th chime of a clock. It makes the whole thing come apart.
Well, and this is what the president is claiming today in his conversation with Lester Holt. We don't know if it's true because, of course, it was Donald Trump talking.
Said it, right.
But James Comey now has let it be known to the New York Times through associates that, yes, there was a dinner. James Comey says that the president invited him to that dinner and he felt that he couldn't refuse a meeting with the president. And at that dinner, he was asked by the president to pledge his personal loyalty to the president. Your reaction to that, Professor?
My reaction is it's staggering. I mean, if that is clearly on its face obstruction of justice, and it is characteristic of the way we know Donald Trump talks and the way he's behaved. He only wants loyalists, yes men, and perhaps some yes women around him. And in this case, what loyalty clearly means, and I think the statements that Director Comey has made to close associates validate this view. What it really means is, can I count on you not to make me a target of this investigation? That's clearly an impermissible question. So either Trump's own account of the discussion is true, in which case he's guilty of obstruction of justice in one respect, or much more likely Comey's account is true, in which Comey gave him no assurances, said you can count on me to be honest, but not to be reliable and not to swear fealty to you. My loyalty is to the law and to the Constitution, in which case, again, Trump is guilty of attempting to suborn obstruction of justice. Either way, as with the first article of impeachment against Richard Nixon, this is a series of high crimes and misdemeanors all by itself, regardless of whether Trump was or was not part of a collusive plot with Russia to steal an American election.
That's devastating. Coming from Lawrence Tribe, listen, let me tell you, it might not mean a lot to you, especially if you're a conservative. Nothing means anything to you, that I would say or that Lawrence Tribe would say. But you know what? It means a lot to every single person in D.C. Every single legislator pays attention because Lawrence Tribe is a Harvard law professor and one of the most brilliant legal minds. And his conclusion here is the same as mine was. I thought conflict of interest, right? That's why I reached out to Richard Painter, who agreed it was a conflict. But no, this is, and last night, I kept looking at this Lester Holt thing and I realized, oh my God, he was obstructing justice. He was getting in the way. He still is getting in the way of an investigation into him by firing the lead prosecutor, by firing the head of the FBI, something that has never been done in the history of the United States. You know, Nixon fired the special prosecutor. And he fired his attorney general, and he fired a bunch of people who would not fire the special prosecutor because Nixon was also demanding loyalty from his cabinet, and they wouldn't give it to him. So, one of them resigned, and the others were fired. And then he finally found, Robert Bork to fire Archibald Cox, the special prosecutor. But he was the special prosecutor. He wasn't the head of the FBI. This here is the head of the FBI investigating the president, and the president fires the head of the FBI. That has never happened. In the history of our country, it has never happened. It is, nobody likes to say, this is, unprecedented. But this is. This truly, truly is. And so I was tweeting under the hashtag last night, obstruction of justice, abuse of power, not normal is my favorite one. That's mine. And resist, obviously. But then Lawrence Tribe comes on the TV like after 10 o'clock and he starts saying, it's not just that if Comey's version is true, then Trump obstructed justice. But it's also true that if Donald Trump's version is true, which is a joke, but if it is, then he was suborning obstruction of justice. It's like suborning perjury, asking someone to lie for you. This is worse. This is a higher charge. This is obstruction of justice. And he puts it all together at the end where he said, this interview with Lester Holt alone, never mind the collusion that may or may not have happened. We know Russia did interfere in our elections. Maybe Trump didn't collude. Maybe he did. That's a separate question. He said, but this alone, just this dinner alone and the story of it is a high crime and misdemeanor, no matter who was telling the truth. Wow. And so I tweeted to Trump last night. I said, this is your kryptonite. This interview was your kryptonite. And it is. And that's why it's so freaking important that everybody knows what happened with that interview last night. It's incredible. And so next week, Rod is going to go up and give an all senators briefing behind closed doors. I'll bet you anything Comey has been scheduled behind closed doors for a classified debrief of his time on this investigation from July until Tuesday when he was fired. This is just unbelievable. This is really, really, really an amazing interview that he gave. I mean, it's just the wildest, craziest. Like I said, he's an improv liar. And he doesn't know what he's doing. And everybody who suspected that he wouldn't and doesn't is correct. Period. End of that story. Manny in Massachusetts.
Hey, Randy, I'll be quick. I know you're running out of time.
Yes, it's definitely beer o'clock.
Yes. First of all, on Bounce Your Boobies Day, I want to say that I'm happy to hear that your health and your boobies are going to be okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And second of all, I want to nominate 3 more people to your dream team. I don't know if they're on there.
Oh.
Sally Yates, Michael Nance, and Clayton Watts.
Oh, Sally's on there. Nance is good. Yeah, and Malcolm Nance. Yeah, and who else?
Yep. Clayton Watts.
Oh, Clint Watts. Yes, Clint. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good one.
And another thing, I want to say that seeing his poll numbers are so low, I feel like he's starting to bring our country together because his poll numbers are low. Yeah, exactly. But it worries me.
He is a uniter, isn't he?
Yes. I think he's going to start flying missiles in the air pretty soon because his poll numbers are so low.
Yeah, it's scary.
And my main question to you is, if you were the head of a party who had most of the states, you had the House, the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme Court, would you risk all that for one man? Because I feel like this is what the Republicans are doing.
No, I would not, especially when you know that the order of succession would never produce a Democratic president. So, yeah, why are they continuing to back him? I think the whole, let's say, spirit towards Trump by the Republican Party will change as soon as they get health care and a tax bill?
And he's shooing them up and spitting them out. I mean, look at Devin Nunes and that guy from California with his foot hurt so bad that he can't be around anymore. He shoots them up and spits them out once they lose flavor. So,
he throws everybody under the bus. I mean, everybody, and it's the Inside Edition bus. You know, he throws everybody under that damn bus. I mean, he is such a disloyal person, and he must know how disloyal he is, which is why he demands loyalty from everybody else, because he knows what he would do to you.
Yeah, but I just think it's crazy. If you run the whole country, why risk it for one man? Even if he's the greatest man, why risk it for him? It doesn't make any sense in a political forum.
There is a really good article in the homework section today at randyrhodes.com. It's called Don't Be Complicit, Republicans. And it was written by Peter Werner. He's a fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. The important thing about him is he's been part of 3 Republican administrations. So he kind of has the gravitas, if we could say that hideous word, to talk to Republicans. Another person who wrote a great piece in yesterday's homework section is David Frum. And the original thinker on this, the original Republican thinker on this was Elliot Cohn, who, when I first read his article, people go, why are you quoting Elliot Cohn? Because Elliot Cohn said, do not go to work for Trump. He is the devil. And you will be making a deal with the devil, and the devil takes his payments on the installment plan, and you will go down with him. So there's plenty of Republicans, unfortunately they're not serving in the House or the Senate, who see this, who see it. I think Richard Burr of North Carolina, the head of the intelligence agency, I think he's seeing the light. Because, he gets all the briefings. He knows what's going on. He knows what time it is. He's woke. But I think everybody will turn on Trump as soon as there's some stripping of Medicaid and a redistribution to the wealthy in the tax bill. I think that would be where they say sayonara to Trump. Have a great weekend. Redistribution to the wealthy in the tax bill. I think that would be where
This is the top of the hour from the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn. Instead of commercials, you've got progressive news and interviews right here at the top of the hour.
Hello, Progressive Voices TuneIn listeners. I'm Casey Hobbs.
And I'm Shane Mason, and we're the hosts of Nurse Talk Radio.
Here's what we're talking about this week.
Donna, welcome to Nurse Talk, and thanks for joining us. You, like millions of us, are not in shock about the Republican healthcare hurricane, but despair might be more like it.
I know that I've had some despair around this issue. How are you feeling?
Oh, God, I'm telling you. Hello, my Nurse Talk friends. I think I've gone from a real position of deep despair and fear to right on through to anger with these people, and then determination that we cannot let this piece of legislation that is masquerading as the Republican health care bill, none of us can allow our folks in the United States Senate to even have a moment's thought about passing such a mess. And it's very troubling for those of us who have struggled with any kind of chronic illness or illness of any kind, really, and certainly for those people who are cancer survivors, people who have, I talked to a person over the weekend who is on anti-rejection drugs for a kidney transplant, scared to death about what's going to happen. It's just unconscionable.
It is. And for millions of Americans, heart disease is the number one killer of women. I have hypertension. Everybody in my family has hypertension. That's really scary because they can deny everything related to heart disease. That's congestive heart failure. That's a clot. That's a heart attack. That's an arrhythmia. It really is so scary. And I, like you, went through the, fear, despair, then to anger, hence the letter to the congressman here in California. It's been a real process to stay in this. But let's talk about what were the real reasons for this repeal and replace, because it wasn't that the people were asking for it.
No, that's for sure. It wasn't because the people were asking for it. Clearly, we've seen over the last few months since the change in administration in the White House. I'm still not happy about that, but in any case, we've certainly seen people show up at their town halls and make it very, very clear that they do not want the Affordable Care Act gutted. Yes, they want it improved. Yes, they want their premiums to come come down, but they do not want the rest of the provisions of that law to be gutted. And so it's very troubling, of course, to know that, we can read Roseanne DeMoro's piece from National Nurses United, or we can take account from any number of other writers who say this is nothing more than a tax break for the wealthy, and it really isn't about health policy. It's about keeping some kind of artificial promise that they think they made to a certain percentage of Americans to get rid of the terrible Obamacare and replace it with something even more terrible that they're going to sell to the rest of us as if it's something grand. And one of the problems is that they give this nice little tax break to the wealthy and to corporations no longer having to guarantee that they're going to provide health coverage for employees. And those are the people with big money in this country, sadly. It has very little to do with health care policy,
Yes.
certainly. When you see our leadership